Today I'm going to show you how to make a basic sketch. I start by folding my paper in half to divide the paper up into as many sections as I want to make sketches. In this case, I'm making 2 sketches, so I'm folding my paper in half once. I like to work on one sketch at a time, so I am keeping my paper folded in half to make it a little bit easier. I begin my sketch by drawing a basic shape. This could be an oval, it could be a circle, or even a square. When I draw my outlines, I go slowly, and I tend to use my arm to move as opposed to my wrist. So once I'm set on my outline, I go back in and I darken it. Now you'll notice at the top I drew sort of an oval. This is called an ellipse. The ellipse shows that this is a form that has volume and it's not just a flat shape. I decided that I wanted my rim to not be a straight line, so I made it a ripple, and then I erased my oval that I originally had. To show thickness in the rim, I doubled that line because this is going to be made out of clay, which takes up space. So now I have my basic form. I'm going to start laying out my surface design. Because the surface decoration that I plan to add to this pot is a band, it follows the form of the pot that I plan to make. So therefore, when I draw it, I follow the curve of the ellipse at the top. Here I'm creating guidelines to follow when I lay out the texture. My texture again is in a band, but if your texture goes anywhere on your pot, you may want to consider creating guidelines for yourself to draw within. Next, I'm just going to add a little bit of shading to my texture to show that it's pressed in. And to finish my drawing, just to show even more so that it's three-dimensional, I'm going to give it a little bit of shading. This isn't a completely shaded sketch, but I'm just going to shade the inside, fading from dark to light, going from the bottom to the top, and I'm going to shade right below the pot. This gives the pot weight, and it makes it look more three-dimensional without adding a full amount of value. You'll also notice that throughout this demonstration, I rotate my paper to make it easier for my hands to shade the forms that I've created. At this point in the demo, I'm starting to make notes about what my plans are for the piece. Specifically, I'm writing about the art elements. Texture is required, so I'm definitely going to write about texture and what my plans are for the texture on this pot. And in this particular pot, line is also going to be important, so I want to make a couple of notes about line. And the last note I make is about color. I want to have a plan in mind for color for when the time comes. I'm going to finish this drawing just by making notations on the pot to make it more like a diagram and to further explain my idea. So the area that I made rippled, I wanted to label that as a rippled rim. And then I also wanted to explain what type of texture I would be adding. This particular texture I was planning to have impressed in the surface, so I'm making note that it's impressed. And because line is something that I mentioned below, I also decided to add a few more lines to further emphasize that art element. So there you have one complete sketch for a pot. This is one drawing of one idea. You need 2 drawings of two different ideas. So on the back or on the other side of this paper, I'm going to complete my idea number 2. I'm just going to time lapse this and not speak over it, but just know that the features on this one I plan to have added, so I make a special note to make them an additive texture. So there you have my 2 different ideas for my project.